Alright guys, I'm on the process of trying to get the Blazer back on the road. So far I have good reports because I don't see any damage at all to the transmission case, which I was absolutely worried about because that vibration or that drive shaft whipping around inside that drive shaft safety loop, I was just convinced could have broke my case. Also, it doesn't appear that there's any damage to my transmission mount, because I was fairly certain that that could have easily torn that transmission mount, but thus far it seems to be okay. But that's not really a huge concern because my plan is to swap out that factory S10 style transmission mount for a better, stronger energy suspension mount in the future. So, I mean, that wouldn't have been the end of the world. The drive shaft itself, it got scratched up pretty good. If you can see right in this area, the drive shaft safety loop and or bolts, whatever's in there, she took a pretty good scraping. But, I mean, it seems, you know, superficial. It's just cosmetic. It's still structurally sound. And it doesn't appear to be dented or bent, but I guess because I don't have a lathe or any way to spin it to see, I won't really know till I get it in the vehicle. Now, the odd thing about this whole damage and failure was that the yoke was still in the back of the Turbo 400. One of the caps was still in the yoke with its clip on it. So the only thing I can think is somehow the U-joint, without breaking, because that was one of those what they call heavy duty non-greasable U-joints, was able to get out of the yoke with this cap, one cap fully, you know, seated with the clip. And the only damage it did was kind of on the inside of the bore of the yoke. So I had to take a little, kind of a large rat tail or round file, and I just hand filed it all back flat, kind of beveled that inside edge of that bore where the cap goes, and then just clean, you know, just general cleanup of the surface, and the U-joint caps and everything went right back in. One thing I did notice, the last time I had U-joints put in the vehicle, I had the T5 transmission and I had the 7.5 10 bolt rear end. For some reason, the shop put in a 353 U-joint front and rear. Okay, I have done research online. I've contacted O'Reilly's Auto Parts and at Advanced Auto Parts. No one can even tell me for sure what a 353 U-joint is actually supposed to go to, but they both agree that that 353 U-joint doesn't go to a 1310/1344 or 3R U-joint application. So if anybody's familiar, like, because I know there's a lot of people out there that have a lot more experience messing with U-joints than I do, could it be that the cross section of that U-joint that was put in here wasn't wide enough or somehow was not proper for this application, and it was just basically able to go back and forth inside the caps, and then eventually it just threw that clip out or something? Or maybe, I don't know, I wouldn't be against accepting responsibility that maybe when I put that clip in, maybe that I didn't get it seated all the way, or it was the wrong size or something. I just don't know. These U-joints, because I did my research after I found out those 353 U-joints aren't for an S10 drive shaft. So I did research and I found out the Trailblazer output from the transfer case to the rear end uses the same, basically it's called a 1344 or a 1310. Apparently that's some interchangeable number they use or something. But basically, if you look on the parts stores websites, the S10 Driveshaft and the Trailblazer Yoke use the same universal joint. So this is a heavy duty non-greasable number 234, you know, U joint, which is way different than a 353, so that's kind of concerning. I know that I did the research and I verified this is the U joint that should, according to the interwebs, fit my application, and everything went together proper, and it's got super thick heavy duty clips. Like they're way thicker and stronger metal than what I had on there before, because they were kind of a thinner style metal. But I've got the clips seated as far down in the grooves on the caps, you know, because I took a little punch. Actually, I took a hammer and I took this little punch and made sure that those clips were seated in their grooves. Everything is rotating smoothly. Now on the back of the drive shaft, move down there and look at that. You can tell I have the 8/8 companion flange to the S10 drive shaft, which would give you what they call a 1330 to a 1310 conversion joint. And from what I found, all that really means is the axle for the 1330 is longer than the 1310, and it has exterior clips. So if you'll see, so I can flip it around, the yoke or the companion flange for the 8/8 with the 1330 U joint has a different width at its axis on the U joint body, and has the exterior clips, plus has the smaller, I think it's 1 1/16 of an inch caps. Keep that in mind when you guys are doing these kind of swaps with those 8/8s. Then of course the S10 has the, I think, 1 1/8 cap diameter, but it has the inside clips. And again, these are this is a number 355. It's a 355 conversion U joint. If you like Spicer brand, the Spicer part number is 5-212X, but I went with this Master Pro from O'Reilly's. Both these U joints, the heavy non-greasable 234 and the 355 conversion joint, are $10.99 at O'Reilly's, and they're pretty beefy. Like I said, they've got the really thick, much thicker than average retaining clips that are really strong, springy snap pressure, you know. So I was like, I looked at them online, and I looked at them in the store and decided, okay, that's $11. We're gonna run that. Plus, you know, making sure you have the proper U joint is probably going to be beneficial. So let's get this drive shaft back in the car and do some other investigating. Alright guys, I've got the drive shaft reinstalled in the vehicle. I did a little bit more visual inspection on the case and the transmission mount. Everything looks runnable, looks good. If you'll look at my steering shaft and harken back to my test drive video that ended absolutely horrible, I had mentioned that my steering shaft was rubbing my exhaust manifold. There is the telltale witness sign of the shiny ring around the steering shaft where it's rubbing the exhaust manifold. What's luckily for me, I guess, it's really just mostly touching some raised numbers that are cast into the manifold. So I'm basically, all I'm going to do is take the steering shaft loose real quick and take a grinder or a cutoff wheel or something and just remove a little bit of a material there, and it should, knock on wood, free up a little bit of turning space. Alright guys, so we got the drive shaft installed. I did do some clearancing for the steering shaft. The little fitting that was on my oil cooler bypass, I guess it's the little piece that bolts on your oil pan that would be for the oil cooler, but it's just a block off, where I added the port to feed my turbo later. It was seeping, for lack of a better term. It was seeping a little bit of oil, which is really weird because I sealed all those threads with like a Teflon, liquid Teflon, and it had an AN cap on it. But sure enough, after it heat cycled a few times, it would sit there and seep enough to drip very seldomly, randomly, out of that little fitting I added to that block off plate. So I was able to get a wrench on it and cinch it down, snug it down. I didn't want to go full crazy with it and strip it out or something and then have a huge problem. I got under there and measured my drive shaft angles. I'll talk about that in a different video, because that's going to be a specific video about how to calculate and set your proper pinion angles. I'm not happy. My drive shaft was not bent or damaged directly as a result from the issue with the front U-joint, but I've noticed today, I don't know how I've not noticed this before, that I had a drive shaft built and it's not true. Like, it doesn't even, like, I was watching the rear end yoke, the output on the transmission, both of them are dead solid, and my drive shaft is not true. It doesn't spin completely true. So I don't know if, they kind of threw that together and never really balanced it. I don't know. I'm going to have to, at least at the very minimum, have it checked. I've been playing with the start and idle. I'm going to have to get the battery charged up fully because it's a little bit run down from all the starting. But I'm going to have to go through that tune and try to work on that start and idle, because I'd like it to idle around 750 to 775, just so the cam would sound a little bit better. But that is, another project. So I'm getting ready to try again. I'm just going to drive it in town, up to the gas station, maybe put 5 gallons in it, and drive it back. We're going to keep these trips short and close to the house, just in case. But I did run it with it on rear end on jack stands and run it through the gears, forward and reverse. Everything seems normal. We'll just hope that everything is normal. We'll revisit this idea later, because you never know when I'm going to mess something up or break something. Thanks again.